I will give you an example of one of the greatest lawyers India has ever seen, Mr. Ram Jethmalani. I hope that you have heard about him. When I began practice, he was a living legend for us. Remember, Ram Jethmalani started his career from the courts of magistrates. And as a lawyer, I have seen him appearing in the courts of metropolitan magistrates in Mumbai. According to me, the most challenging career for brilliant law graduates is practice before the traditional courts, because that is one practice where you always require thinking on your feet. If you become a trial lawyer, you have to be a very skillful cross examiner, and cross examination is a very fascinating thing. Cross examination is not about raising your voice as you see in most of the films. Cross examination is something about understanding the mind of witness. Cross examination is something which requires you to make the witness comfortable and get the answers which you want from the witness. Appearing before the constitutional courts like High Court and Supreme Court is very challenging. And why I say that this is the best available field, because I must tell you that as Justice Chagla, Chief Justice Chagla, great Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, has said in his book that nothing succeeds like a success in legal profession, traditional legal profession. I'm not talking in terms of money, because I can share this with you that when we talk about bigger cities like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Madras, legal profession, traditional legal profession has become most lucrative profession. I'm not stopping at that. Why I say traditional practice before the traditional courts? I always say this when I talk to the young lawyers, that practicing before our traditional courts is five-star social work. Why I say five-star social work? Because if you are successful, and young bright minds like you are bound to be successful, you earn a lot, and while earning a lot, you can do a lot of pro bono work. You can appear in legal aid cases. You can defend poor people who are languishing in jail and see that their rights under Article 21 are made available to them. You can appear for various charitable organizations which are doing great work in our country for poor and downtrodden. So it's a great opportunity for you to do social work, to give back to the society while you earn handsomely. And as I said, that these are all institutions which have come up by using public funds. These institutions must give back to the society, because ultimately, if we have brilliant lawyers practicing before traditional courts, it will improve quality of our justice delivery system. Quality of justice rendered by the courts, maybe our trial courts, district courts, high courts and Supreme Court, it depends on quality of the bar, the assistance which is given by members of the bar. And therefore, the success or failure of the legal system always depends on the lawyers, the members of the bar. And therefore, if you become part of traditional legal profession, you serve the cause of justice. Ultimately, judiciary is one institution which is so important that common man looks upon the institution for getting justice. There are people who languish in jail for years without getting justice. They look upon the constitutional courts to grant them benefit of liberty under Article 21. So that's a huge challenge to work before the traditional courts. This is one career which is a very fascinating career. Another career which I want to talk about is career in judiciary. And I'm so glad that alumni of this very great institution are now occupying good positions in judiciary. We have 4 or 5 sitting judges of Karnataka High Court who are alumni of this great institution. Why I am talking about judiciary, I want to give great deal of emphasis. Keep aside the salary part. You may be under impression that the judges are not paid adequately. I'll deal with that little later. But I am on beauty of job as a judge. You know, if you are a brilliant lawyer, you have command over, for example, you are a specialized constitutional lawyer, or you are a specialized criminal lawyer or corporate lawyer. Even if you are very brilliant, if you are very equipped with all nuances of law, there are inherent limitations of your performance. What are those inherent limitations? You may have a very aggressive opponent as a lawyer who marches ahead of all lawyers appearing in the case, is so strong. You may have a very cantankerous client who will not be satisfied about services rendered by you, notwithstanding the skills practiced by you. And one more thing, you may be facing hostile court, hostile judges who are against you. So therefore, when you are a lawyer, your performance is constrained by several external factors. Look at the position of a judge. You are a session judge, you are a judge of the High Court. When you sit single on the bench, there is nobody who can control your performance. Perhaps your performance is controlled by your own conscience and the 4 corners of law. Only law and equity controls what you do as a judge. And that's the most fascinating part of judgeship, that you are on your own. No external factor controls you. And mind you, when you sit as a judge, you get great satisfaction. Even if you give justice to somebody, one person who has suffered injustice, you derive great satisfaction. And I must tell you, I practiced for almost 20 years in Bombay High Court, first 2 years in trial court and thereafter in Bombay High Court. And I worked as judge of three different courts, Bombay High Court, Karnataka High Court and Supreme Court for 21 years, 8 months and 25 days. But I can tell you from my own experience that the work satisfaction you get as a judge cannot be compared with the work satisfaction you get as a lawyer. Of course, you must earn. Earning is also important. You must have a good lifestyle. But at the same time, if you consider yourself to be expert in a particular field, you must get that satisfaction of rendering service, satisfaction of rendering justice. And that's very important. Another career, which is very important according to me, is career of teaching in law. It is because of these great teachers, two of them are sitting here, that these institutions have prospered. The teachers in law, like starting great tradition, started by Professor Madhava Menon. It is because of these great teachers that we have great legal scholars. We talk about perhaps greatest surviving legal mind, Professor Upendra Bakshi. Ultimately, he was also a great teacher. Today, he continues to be a teacher in different capacity. So, as our legal system needs good lawyers and good judges, our legal system needs great law teachers. Another field connected with teaching is very important. I must say that I am not a jurist or expert in law. I am saying this only on the basis of my own experience, my own understanding of the situation. I believe that in our country, in true sense, there is no legal research. Whatever research, if we call it as a research, takes place for writing thesis for doctorate. So there is no in real terms, real legal research. And there are many areas available for research. In 1860, the British government came out with Indian Penal Code, and we have a new version of that in 2023. And the new version is not different from the old version. Some changes here and there. Section X section becomes A section in the new act. But has any legal research taken place from 1860 in the context of situation in India, rapidly changing situation in India, about these penal laws? I'll give you an example of a law which is in controversy. Of course, there are early days for you, but you must have heard, because as you are students of this, you have taken admission, you must be already interested in legal subjects. Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It has become such a controversial thing, and there is allegation that it is being misused. You must have read recently that two distinguished lawyers were issued notice by Enforcement Directorate. They wanted to know what advice the lawyer had rendered to some litigant who got entangled into offence under the PMLA. Now, why these laws are not effective, or why we have such laws which can be misused? The reason is that there is no real legal research before the laws are enacted. Oh, I go back to 1860. Look at Indian Penal Code, section 279, which makes a rash and negligent act causing injury as an offence. In 1860, nobody contemplated so many vehicles on the road. But after so many years, after so many decades, it takes care of offences on the road. So some legal research, lot of thinking must have taken place before Britishers formulated Indian Penal Code. But we do not have that expertise because we don't have that research happening in our country. So therefore, teaching and research in law is very, very important avenue available to you and open to you. Now let us come to monetary part when I talked about entering judiciary. Today, some of the senior IAS officers make a grievance. I happen to be member of two committees for appointing members of some tribunals. One was Central Industrial Tribunal, one was another tribunal. And as per law, some of the civil servants were members of that selection committee. We used to complete our work and then we used to have discussion over a cup of tea. Their grievance was that as compared to the starting pay of IPS and IAS officers, a judicial officer who has practically no experience of working as a lawyer and who becomes a judicial officer even at the age of 25, 26 or 27, he gets more starting pay than IAS and IPS officers. He gets more perquisites like rent-free residence, petrol allowance, driver allowance and whatnot. So therefore, gone are those days when it was considered that entry in judicial service at the grassroots level, I'm not using the word lowest level because they are not lower courts or subordinate courts. They are trial and district courts. So entry in judiciary at grassroots level at one point of time was considered as not at all a lucrative thing. But things have changed. And now today we have a better pay structure and better perquisites to the members of the judiciary. And please remember one thing, when we talk about career in judiciary and what kind of emoluments judges get, we can't compare that with the staggering amounts which successful lawyers get. The reason is that, as I said, the work satisfaction you get as a judge is far, far superior and far, far more than what you get as a lawyer. So these are various options available to you. I know that it is too early to talk about your future, what career you should adopt. I am doing only one thing. I am only setting your thinking process. You start thinking about your career. Today, of course, there will be people who will be telling you that you should eye on joining corporate field or you should eye on joining firms. And I'm sure in a great institution like this, there will be campus interviews. So many law firms will be coming here and law firms will be picking bright students from this great institution. But of course, there are students who need to earn immediately after they complete their graduation. And for them, of course, there are compulsions because legal profession is such that you may not start earning immediately. I understand those who have pressing need to start earning, they go into the firms and working there. But I believe that those who can afford to wait for some time, those who can afford to struggle for some time, they must consider these better options of practicing before the traditional courts. I remember attending one such function in one of the private law schools in India, where I said something not exactly the same but in different words. But there were people who addressed the students when I was present, telling the students that look, the judiciary in India is facing, judicial system in India, not judiciary, judicial system in India or justice delivery system in India is facing huge challenges. There are huge delays. And people talk about crisis of quality of justice rendered. The quality of justice is not good. Everybody says that. Then I told the students, there was question and answer session. I told the students, if you feel that Indian judiciary is not performing, it is not up to the mark, that itself poses a great challenge before brilliant students and would be brilliant law graduates like you. And that is where you must start thinking about it.